Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We never expected such a large turnout because of the long holidays or weekends. We were expecting about 3, 5. Therefore, that shows your commitment. Yeah. No, we were extremely pleased to have you with us. You can hear me, don't you? Yeah. We have been looking forward to this presidency since January. As you probably know, this is the third time that we are having the opportunity to be in the Security Council, even though we have been a member of the United Nations since its foundation for 70 years. We have had only two opportunities in the past. This is the third one. Therefore, we are very, very happy. Therefore, it is with that sense of satisfaction and sense of responsibility that we assume the obligation. We take our membership of the Council extremely seriously. And for September, our program of work, that is where I will turn to now. There are about I would say 3, 4 highlights, the major highlights. All are very important, but I will say 3, 4 we consider extremely important from our point of view. The open debate, the high-level open debate that we'll be having on the 20th, which is going to be chaired by our Prime Minister. We hope the representation of member states would be at the highest level. If I'm not too optimistic, I think we can expect about 10 or so heads of state and government. And the open debate is on peacekeeping operations. We are marking the 2 years since the report, the HIPPO report. Essentially, we'll be focusing on the recommendation of the HIPPO report and the recommendation of the Secretary General, the previous Secretary General, on the HIPPO report. And of course, the current Secretary General also has a very serious commitment to the reform. Therefore, this is essentially the focus of the high-level debate. It's an open debate. Apart from the 15 members, we hope other member states will also take part in the open debate at the highest level. We have been hearing a lot of enthusiasm on the part of many. Therefore, we expect a good turnout at the highest level. The second topic we consider one of the highlights of September is the Security Council mission, which will be going to Addis Ababa for the 11th joint consultation between the two councils, the UN Security Council and the AU Peace and Security Council. And again, we attach great importance to this because we look at the cooperation, the partnership between the two organizations as critically important for making progress in peace and stability in Africa, particularly. Therefore, encouraging, enhancing that partnership between the two organizations is going to be very important. Now, last April, as you will recall, the heads of the two organizations signed an agreement, a framework agreement, on enhancing the partnership between the AU and the UN in peace and security. Therefore, this joint consultation is coming after the signing of that framework agreement, that therefore we'll expect this consultation that will be taking place on February 7 and 8 would reflect the significance of that commitment by the two heads of the two organizations. Again, as you recall, the 10th joint consultation that was held last year here in New York, it took the two councils to adopt the joint communique a year. Therefore, we are hoping that we'll be able to avoid that. We seem to have made some progress in preparing the draft joint communique, and hopefully we will be able to adopt the joint communique right away after the meeting. Now, we'll be departing from New York on the 5th, arriving in Addis on the 6th. We'll be having a reception in the evening. Then on the 7th, we will have the informal meeting between the two councils, essentially focusing on three thematic issues. The financing of the African peace support missions is a very difficult question, which is going to be very difficult to tackle because a number of differences have not yet been resolved, but we hope we'll be making incremental change in terms of progress. The second thematic issue would be the partnership between the AU and the UN. The third would be the post-conflict reconstruction, peace building. This will be the three that will be discussed on the 7th. On the question of whether there will be an outcome of that informal meeting, we have not yet come to an understanding. The discussion is still underway. On the 8th, in fact, on the 7th, in the afternoon, the Council will be having a meeting with our Prime Minister, the Ethiopian Prime Minister. And the next day will be the main consultation, the formal consultation, which would be focusing on three issues. Three conflict situations: Somalia, South Sudan, and the Lake Chad region. This will be the three issues that will be addressing. Now, really the substantive work of the Council under our presidency would commence on the 11th. On the 11th of September, with briefing and consultation on Colombia. In the afternoon, our colleague, Ambassador Sebastiano, the chairman of the 1718 Committee on North Korea, will report on the 120 days report on that matter. The next day, on the 12th, Tuesday, that is, I will speak by way of post-mortem on our mission to Addis Ababa. That is in the morning. Again in the morning, the head of the UN AOU, USG Haile Mercurius, will submit a report, will brief the Council on the partnership between the two organizations. That day, we're going to have a lunch with the Secretary General. Now, I consider that very, very important as well. This is not one of those run-of-the-mill lunch, because the Secretary General will be briefing the Security Council for the first time on his reform proposal on peace and security. Therefore, it's going to be a very important luncheon, which we look forward to. The next day, that is the 13th, we'll have a briefing and consultation on Somalia, UNSOM, by SRSG Keating. This is on the 120 days report, along with the special representative of the chairperson of the Commission of the African Union, Francisco Madeira. Both will be speaking on VTC. That is. Then in the afternoon, Mr. Feldman will brief the Security Council. This is going to be the 6-month report on Lake Chad Basin. You recall 6 months ago, a resolution was adopted following the Security Council mission to the region, Security Council Resolution 2349. Therefore, USCJ Feldman will be briefing the Security Council on that matter. On the 14th, we will have this is the adoption of a resolution on Unsmiling, on that's Libya. Originally we were thinking of adopting another resolution on Colombia on the 14th, but now we have agreed this morning that, as you recall, I mentioned Colombia will be discussed on the 11th. We have decided now to adopt the resolution. What's the resolution? The verification mission resolution, draft resolution will be adopted on the 11th. Again, after the adoption of essentially the Unsmiling resolution, we'll have a briefing and consultation on UNAMID, that is Darfur. Our former colleague, who is now the joint special representative of the Secretary General and the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mamabolo, Ambassador Mamabolo, will be the one who will be briefing the Council. 15th Friday, we have left it open for delegations to receive their delegations coming for the 72 General Assembly. The next week, starting from the 18th, is essentially a high-level week. Therefore, the only meeting we'll be having will be the one I mentioned earlier, the 20th, the high level, which is going to be chaired by our Prime Minister. There will be 3 briefers: the Secretary General, the chairperson of the African Union, Moussa Faki, the chairperson of the African Union, Moussa Faki, and the former president of Simon Lese, who was also the chairman of the HIPPO, Jose Ramos Horta. Therefore, you're going to have 3 heavyweights for that briefing. Then that's it. Then the next week will start on the 25th, Monday. We'll have a briefing and consultation by Special Coordinator Mladinov. This is his monthly briefing. In the afternoon, we will have a debate on UNAMA, that's Afghanistan. SRSG Yamamoto has he confirmed? Yeah, confirmed. Yeah, Yamamoto would be the one doing the briefing. The Foreign Minister of Afghanistan will be here. The next day, the 26th, we'll have a briefing and consultation on South Sudan, UNMISS. David Shearer will be submitting his monthly report. In the afternoon, we will have the bi-monthly briefing and consultation on Yemen. Special Envoy Ismail is yet to be confirmed, but we hope he will be the one who will be doing the briefing. On the 27th, the next day, Wednesday, we have a briefing on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts, aviation security. You would recall that the Security Council had adopted a resolution last year, Resolution 2309, and therefore it is in that connection that we'll be having this briefing. Then this is in the morning. In the afternoon, we'll have another briefing on the Middle East, this time on Syria, on both the political and the humanitarian. On the political, of course, De Mistura will be briefing the Council. On the humanitarian, the new OCHA Under Secretary General, Mark Lowcock, will be the one who will be briefing the Council. Is going to be his maiden brief. The next day, 28th, both 27th, 28th are devoted to terrorism. On the 28th, we're going to have a briefing on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. The discussion now, the briefing is there in the program as adopted, but there are a few issues that need to be sorted out regarding that briefing. But no big matter. It will be handled. We are very hopeful, but the briefing will be carried out. The Under Secretary General for Counterterrorism, the new Voronkov, will be one of the briefers, but with regard to the outcome, all that we are still discussing. Now, that will bring us to the end of our program. We will wrap up our presidency with the Toledo formula briefing, which we hope you will be following very, very closely. That is essentially the program that we have, unless I have missed some. Therefore, I am open to hear your comments. Hopefully not too many questions, but comments. Comments. I'm prepared to listen. Yeah.
Ambassador Alemu, congratulations on assuming the presidency and good luck for the month of September. On behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, thanks for this briefing, and we hope to see you a lot at the stakeout. My name is Sherman Briceby, South African Broadcasting. My question is about elections as it relates to certain African countries. I think you might have seen the Kenya Supreme Court today rule that the presidential election needs to be reheld, invalidating that result. I think there's a great deal of concern as it relates to the DRC about upcoming elections, supposed upcoming elections by the end of this year. South Sudan, the UN envoy Funk Haysom last week raised concern about possible elections in South Sudan by July next year, given the fact that institutions are not working, institutions do not exist. What role do you see the Security Council playing as it relates to elections in some of these countries? And in your national capacity, do you believe that elections should be held in the DRC by the end of this year and in South Sudan by July next year?
Last one?
In your national capacity, should elections go ahead in the DRC? Is the DRC ready for elections by the end of this year, as stipulated by the agreement, the December agreement last year? And South Sudan, where you have a number of peacekeeping troops, should that election be postponed given what's going on there, or the lack of progress there?
Well, I think it would be better to deal with each question as they come, so that I will not forget any question. Now, with respect to the elections, I mean, the Kenyan matter happened over how many hours? Yeah, therefore it would be too quick really to comment on that. The Supreme Court came up with a decision, as you know. That's where we are. Now, one cannot put Kenya, the DRC, and South Sudan in the same category, really. Therefore, I would not comment on Kenya, really. We are following development very, very carefully. So far, they have handled it in a very laudable manner. Therefore, we are very hopeful. You see, Kenya has been really an example for peace and stability in our region. You know, at a time when Ethiopia was facing major difficulties, Kenya was very, very peaceful. I mean, basically the only country in the Horn of Africa that has maintained peace and stability for a very extended period of time. Therefore, we care very much for Kenya. It is with that sentiment that we follow development in the country. We have great confidence that the Kenyan people have the capacity to handle this matter as effectively as they should. Now, with respect to the election in the DRC, again, hopefully this matter will be handled in a way which would benefit the people of the DRC. You know, people tend to forget the fact that this is a country that hasn't had normalcy for a very, very long time. Not, pardon? Precisely. I agree with you. Since the Lumumba days, you see. And therefore, it's a country, a people that deserve a lot of sympathy. But you know, the December agreement was historic. I'm talking in my national capacity. I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not talking as the President's Security Council, but in my national capacity, that's what I'm doing. We hope that the provisions of the December 31st agreement would be adhered to. I mean, that is the hope and the wish we have. Whether doing so will be practical, that's another matter. This is something that would have to be looked at as objectively as possible. The South Sudan, again, I don't want to jump the gun. I know my foreign minister will be there tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Therefore, I will refrain from further comment on the matter. But this is something that we follow very, very closely. I mean, South Sudan is a neighboring country with which we share a very long common border. Therefore, we care very much for the peace and stability of South Sudan. Good. Yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. Good luck with September, and to echo Sherwin, I hope we do see you at the stakeout a few times. Just following up on your open debate during Leaders Week, who are you expecting, who has confirmed to attend the peacekeeping debate, and is President Trump among them?
What we have is an informal, sort of list which would not be suitable for additional eyes, As far as the participation of President Trump is concerned, we have no information.
Not even informally?
Not even informally. Yeah. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Best of luck on your presidency. George Baumgarten, I'm a correspondent for both Jewish newspapers in North America and some East African and Pan-African publications. Just first with reference to the DRC, I know I'm dating myself, but I'm one of the few people that can actually remember Mr. Lumumba and Secretary General Hammarskjöld and Mr. Chombe and various other people involved there. I was going to ask you to verify what part of the Middle East the thing on the 25th is, but if it involves Mr. Mladenov, I guess we know where it is, Israel and Palestine. With reference to the mission next week, Mr. President, do I understand correctly you have one day where you're going to meet with the AU and one day when you're going to meet with the senior people from your government? It involves just those two elements. I mean, I assume we will get bulletins sent back to us, those of us who obviously can't be there with you, send back to us on which we can base our coverage.
Look, this trip, this mission, is for consultation with the African Union Peace and Security Council. It had nothing to do with the Ethiopian government. But since the council will be there, it would be only proper for the council to listen to what the Prime Minister of Ethiopia might say. All the more so because he is the chairman of IGAD. That's it. Therefore, it's a matter of an hour. That's it. Therefore, not just the bulk of it. All the time is going to be devoted to the meetings that we're going to have with the African Union. Now, on Now, on your first question, what the focus will be, this is the monthly briefing of Special Coordinator Mladinov. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Sakinalo.
Good. It means thank you. I'm a Sakinalo. You don't know this. Okay. We'll come to you.
Thank you very much. Evelyn Leopold, Huffington Post contributor. A couple of questions. You have at the bottom that you're expecting the OPCW report. Is that the Jim report or something else that's on the 27th?
Oh, yeah.
That's Jim, right? Okay, just checking. Also, do you expect the discussion of an arms embargo on South Sudan to come up again? And what were your objections to it?
Now first, let me go back. Let me, the OPCW report, the Jim report will be coming in October. Therefore, this is not the Jim report.
It is.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not. The second question?
Right, South Sudan. What are your objections to an arms embargo? To an arms embargo, and do you expect it to come up again? That people will try to have one, purchase of weapons amid famine and so forth.
Who said? Now you are asking me in my national capacity, of course. Who said I have objected?
I asked if
you have surmised. Correctly, but.
But I listened to you.
Look, if you are referring to what you might have heard about what I might have said in consultation, what we said was, since the complaint was with respect to the misunderstanding that had been created in Juba, with respect to the Rwandese RPF forces. Now, that misunderstanding was resolved. Therefore, the proposal for condemnation and for sanctions was raised in that connection. Therefore, we say, look, I mean, the matter has been resolved. Let's be, more optimistic. Let's focus on what we can do, in terms of pushing the parties toward peace. Otherwise, there is IGAD is on record as having, allowed, taken on board the possibility of exercising leverage, should that be necessary. But our point has always been that whenever such action is contemplated, there should be consultation between the Security Council and IGAD and the African Union. Because, I mean, those are closer to the problem. That has been our position. Okay, we'll come to you.
Ambassador, I'm Carol Landry with Agence France Presse. I wanted to ask you about the sanctions regime proposal for Mali that the French have put forward. I don't see it on the schedule. Does that mean it's not going to be discussed? And can you say in your national capacity what you think of setting up a sanctions regime for Mali?
Mm-hmm. There is now a general understanding that for now it should be delayed. It's not being abandoned, but delayed. That's where we are. Therefore, talks are underway, discussion consultations are underway, but for now, the understanding is that it should be delayed. Apparently, there are some indications that there is progress. Not, significant progress, but sort of incremental. There are indications. Now, whether those are going to be as significant as people think they are now, this is a matter to be decided as we proceed. But for now, the understanding is that it should be delayed. It's not being abandoned, but should be delayed.
So it's not going to be discussed this month?
Yeah. Well, we cannot be 100% sure. I mean, for now, it's being delayed. For how long? It's not decided. I mean, it's being discussed. Okay. Matthew.
Thanks a lot. Matthew Lee, Intercity Press, on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. Here's a hope that you guys will send out information as much as possible by email. Some countries have been very good at it. Some have done less. The more you can do to let people know what the agenda is, what the documents are. But I wanted to ask you, I know that in your meeting with a non-member of the Council states, the issue of Myanmar was raised by the Bangladesh ambassador. And I wanted to know, do you think, even since the meeting, 46 people have been found dead in a river trying to get to Bangladesh. Do you think he asked you to remain seized of it? Do you anticipate any further action in this month on this issue that was raised by the UK late last week? And I also want to ask you about Burundi. I don't see it on the... I didn't hear it in your summary of things that will come up at the AU. It used to come up in those meetings. Do you feel the situation has actually gotten better there, or is it... What's the status of Michel Kafando and the whole office that works on Burundi and the Council this month? And if there's a second round, I'd love to hear an update about the Oromo protests, but that would be for a second round in your national capacity.
Mm-hmm. On the email, we will be very mindful of the need that you and your colleagues have. Therefore, we'll try to discharge our responsibilities as much as possible. On Myanmar, let's say there was consultation under AOB a few days ago. There was no outcome. This is something that we'll be following up. Even in our own national capacity, we have not made up our mind. I mean, we need to be better informed on the matter. On Burundi, no, on Burundi, my colleague was informing me that there is no plan for September, obviously. But in my own national capacity, in fact, we have been taking the position within the Council that you cannot compare Burundi, say, to Central African Republic, okay? There is no doubt. Burundi has very strong state institutions. And that's not to be belittled. And one of the major difficulties we have in Africa has to do with not having strong institutions. You see, when institutions collapse, when states collapse, the result would be even greater calamity in terms of human rights violations and humanitarian tragedies. Now, I'm not saying that Burundi does not have problems. What I'm saying is that we have to look at the situation in Burundi with realism and handle the matter with wisdom. That's what we try to do in our national capacity. That's where we are, really. On the last question, on the Oromo question, this is really, it has nothing to do with the UN, but you ask it. I mean, you could have asked me privately. I would have been very happy to deal with it. This is one of the issues that we'll have to handle, sort out. But I hope we could have a seminar on the matter because this is a very, very serious issue in which there are a lot of hands in it. And the role of the social media has been extremely, extremely dangerous. And I don't want to get into the details, but there are also radio stations that have been fanning conflict in the country. That's why I really want to have a private discussion with you. But for now, this will suffice. Good.
Thanks so much for the briefing. James Reiner with Al Jazeera. African issues often struggle to get a kind of spotlight in the international community. But this month, Ethiopia gets to be president of the Security Council. It's September, so all the eyes of the world are on the UN. You're going to have Trump in the building. You're going to have Tillerson in the building. I'm just wondering if you could, galvanize a bit of attention around one particular African security issue. Might be South Sudan, might be Burundi, might be your peacekeeping debate. What would be the one issue you'd really like to get some momentum on, and what would you like to achieve in September?
That's a very wonderful question. If we could make some progress with respect to South Sudan, it would really be fantastic. It would really be extremely beneficial, not only for the people of South Sudan, but for the region as a whole. South Sudan is our major preoccupation, of course. because while on one hand you see a possibility for a breakthrough, because it's achievable, you see it's doable. If there is a necessary goodwill, commitment, you could make progress, really. And in that regard, again, I'm speaking in my own national capacity. If the countries of the region speak with one voice, if the Security Council speaks with one voice, it will be possible to make tremendous progress in South Sudan. This has not been happening. Therefore, hopefully, this will change. It's not very difficult to make progress in South Sudan. Therefore, that will be our major preoccupation. Of course, the high-level debate that we have for the 20th is also related to this as well, but that is also something that we will consider very, very highly. Sir, you have.
Just wondering, there was a damning report this week on Venezuela, on tortures, on the killings. When does Venezuela deserve a hearing at the Security Council? Has anybody any of the members asked you to bring this up? Can it be brought up?
It was brought up a few weeks ago, but it didn't go anywhere. And I don't anticipate that it will be brought up in September. And in my own national capacity, I'm not convinced whether we will contribute to peace and stability, to the resolution of the crisis in Venezuela. If we were to, as a council, if we were to engage in Venezuela. In any case, it might be necessary to study the situation very carefully. In my own national capacity, that's where we are. What the council might decide to do, this we'll see. Okay. Yeah.
Herman Humber from LC2 TV and BBC Afrique. Looking to the program, it's clear that Security Council will be busy during the month on some African topic. Is there any goal, is there any objective that you wanted to achieve for Africa during your presidency?
Well, I mean, don't forget, I mean, this is the Security Council. The Security Council has been given primary responsibility for international peace and security by the Charter. That peace security is its responsibility. And as the President of the Council, what we will try to do is also in light of the fact that Africa is suffering from lack of peace and security. Therefore, if we are able to make some difference in that regard, that our presidency will contribute to improving the situation with respect to peace and stability in Africa, I think we will have been satisfied. Even a small progress will be very important. South Sudan, the DRC. We hope the progress that has been achieved in Somalia will continue. We have made a lot of progress in Somalia that needs to be maintained. The momentum needs to be maintained. We hope to contribute to that. We are a very critical part of AMISOM, as you know, our contribution will continue. There is a major problem in that area in connection with the financing of AMISOM. We hope to be able to make some progress in that area. That's what we intend to do. Thank you. Good.
Shotaro Imazu with Fuji TV. Thanks for taking my question. I just wanted to clarify a bit on Myanmar. As you said, on Wednesday, the council met behind closed doors, but there was no statement of resolution that came from it, no outcome. How closely is the council monitoring the situation in Myanmar, and what, if any, are any actions the council can take if the situation progresses or worsens?
Really, it was just one consultation that was held. It is very difficult to make, a sweeping conclusion with respect to where the council stands on Myanmar. We need some time to study the situation, and for all we know, it might come up under AOB in the course of September. Therefore, let's wait and see. Good. Matthew, again?
Yes.
Good.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. One is this issue of the two Security Council sanctions experts that were killed in DRC, Michael Sharp and Zeta Catalan. I just wanted to know a couple. The U.S. and Sweden have both said that they want a further investigation beyond the report that you guys got from DSS. Do you think this was going to require Security Council action to actually create a follow-up mechanism, or is it something the Secretary General can just do on his own?
I think the Secretary General can do on his own. He might be contemplating to do precisely that. But let me say a few things on that. Really, the way the crime was committed, the bestiality, was so gruesome, It's absolutely critical that the perpetrators are held to account. That's going to be absolutely critical. On one hand, you feel there's a need for, working with the government. You cannot ignore the role of the government. On the other hand, the government also has a great responsibility to ensure that no stone is unturned, to ensure that the killers are brought to justice.
Just briefly, on your peacekeeping session, do you expect the United States has already said they want further cuts in peacekeeping? Do you hope to do any persuading at that point?
Yeah, we will never tire of doing that. We have been doing it. We'll continue to do that. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll keep in touch. Huh? Good. Yeah.